We just hit record. After all that crap we said that cannot be recorded, now it can be.
All right.
I'm going to turn a light on because that's where I go. Doesn't do much, but depending on how long this goes, how the light goes. Let me get mine, shuffle myself up. Aha, there we go. Look at I've got my little. If I do this, I
You've
got my.
got a weird lighting situation than I do. I have it on my left, and as the sun goes down, I just get darker on this side. But all right, that's
It's
clear. For
over.
some reason, it's all
I
fuzzy.
got like all windows here, so it's I get pretty, and it's all like white and gray, so it all like reflects in here now. So it is what it is. Although now I look like I got like a black eye. I should like maybe I'll just like sit like this the whole time.
You get sucker punch in hockey again?
Yeah, I wish would be a good excuse, but no. I do have what you can't see. Oh no, it's over here. Where? Yeah, you can't see. I got. That's my good thing, bad thing. I'll share that later. I don't want to spoil. Um, No, I have not gotten sucker punched in hockey. Actually, I've had more sucker punch damage done in handball in the last 6 months than I have hockey. I don't think I've been smacked in hockey near as much, but I've run into partners and a big partner twice now, and it's both times I was like, "Ow, that hurt."
It's funny. You seem to get hurt more in handball than I ever did playing racquetball.
Oh, that's because handball's a real sport. Racquetball's for like wusses. So
Well, should play me sometime. We'll see how that goes.
the guy that I keep running into is a handball player from he's been doing it for like 30 years now. And the reason he's a handball player, he was a converted racquetball player. And there's this old guy. Sorry, folks, I'm just going to share stories. There's this old guy, his name's Dick Finch. Actually, he's passed away many years ago, but he was at the time, he was like, I think he was in his 80s, maybe late 70s. Small little wiry guy, and he would just pick on this buddy of mine that was he was a racquetball player, and he had no idea who Dick was, but Dick would just be like, you could never survive a handball match. You could never survive, and he would just do that over and over and over again. And eventually, my buddy was like, "All right, I'll play," and he got smoked. A year later, he was still getting smoked by Dick. It was like, he was an old guy, but he was crafty. He knew how to play the game, and since then we've had a stalwart. This guy's been playing handball solidly for 30 years now, and he converted from racquetball. He still talks smack to racquetball players. He'll occasionally play, but he converted over, and he's like, nope, it's a whole different game. I'm never going back. So
I used to play it a long time ago, but then I got into racquetball and I liked racquetball more for some reason.
yeah, I've tried racquetball a couple times and was never as big a fan. And no, I'm not doing pickleball yet. Although, gosh, I went by a place that was called like I think it was like a big honking building. I think it's like Pickleball World was on the side of the building. Like tons and tons of courts here. So apparently that's the thing to do.
I've tried it. Our local brewery actually has two pickleball courts, a volleyball court, and bocce ball.
Oh
And
wow.
let's just say we played pickleball for 10 minutes and we went to bocce ball.
Yeah. Pickleball's work. That's like,
It's not so much work, but I don't know, maybe it's just I'm not used to the pedals, but the pedals are more ping pong pedals to me. And I'm not used to like a solid paddle. Like if it was like a tennis racket or something like that, it maybe, but it's just weird. I don't know. I gotta get used to it, I guess. But bocce ball is still a lot of fun to me.
yep. All
All
right, folks. Sorry for that. Actually, I'm not. This is bonus. This is bonus material. You get to
right.
see behind the scenes. And now I got to check my clock to see where the heck. Wow, we are way into this. Although this started before the recording, so we're okay. All right, we're continuing our AI journey. And this one, I am going to do. What did I just do? I asked it, um, turning
Shoot.
feedback into future success, a guide for developers. So this should be a fun one. It's got more topics than we're going to actually get to. Yeah, it's got 7 of them. I'm sure we're not going to get that far. So we are going to dive right into this. Let me reduce this. Let me.
Probably need to start tweaking it to give you like the top five, top like after you get the list, but tweak it and say, hey, all right, now give me like the top four.
We don't get through like two or three. I just like having extra. That's bonus material for all of these people that are spending extra time listening to us talk about bocce ball, handball, and all of those kinds of useless things. All the other stuff that we bring to the table. Um, what was I going to say? Okay, I was going to sing our praises, but I'm not going to because that's just self-serving, and I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to go one. I'm going to go. I can't even start with a three, a two, one. Hello and welcome back. We are continuing our season where we are building better developers with AI. Yes, this time around we are going to go to a past season. We're going through those past topics and we're basically taking them, throwing them into AI and see if that gives us better discussions. Spoiler alert, it has given us really cool things to talk about every single episode, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do that. Currently, we're using ChatGPT. We may switch to another AI engine just for grins, or that may be bonus material sometimes. We'll see how that goes. We've never gotten through the points, but we're going to see if we get there today and probably will fail again. But before we do that, I'm going to introduce myself. I happen to be Rob Broadhead, one of the founders of Developreneur, also the founder of RB Consulting, where we help you do technology better. If you think of your technology as having like a junk drawer where you've got all these applications and services and servers and network things and all that kind of stuff, we sit down with you, we talk to you about your business, figure out how that maps to what you have and what is out there. And then we help you through a technology assessment. We help you figure out a roadmap for the future. We can even help you implement it, depends on where you want to go with it. But essentially, we are there to give you a nice little like guiding hand and help you through integration, simplification, automation, innovation, however we need to do it to find that path to get to a simpler, easier, more zen technology world of your own, and then thus making the most ROI on that really expensive investment in most cases. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing, bad thing. This is actually a spoiler alert I didn't talk about in the pre-show, or I hinted at it. Good thing is Harry's that does like shaving stuff has a new razor. I've always liked them as far as their pricing, but their stuff was not where I needed it to be because I'm like, I got this beautiful mug that I got to shave or something like that. I didn't like the shave. So the good news is they got a new razor. They upgraded it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to give it a shot. And that razor came in the mail. And I'm like, awesome. Good thing. Bad thing is I shaved with the new razor today. And so now I got like a really nice little cut where I forgot I had a new razor. So be careful with sharp objects, children. Also, be careful with my co-host, Michael, who is about to introduce himself. Go for it.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Meloche. I'm one of the co-founders of Developreneur, Building Better Developers. I'm also the founder of Envision QA. We help startups and growing companies launch better products faster. That means fewer bugs, smoother customer experiences, and less wasted time and money. We take care of the behind-the-scenes quality work so you can focus on building and scaling your business. Let Envision QA help you. Good things and bad things. Well, good thing is I also have that Harry's razor, and I've gotten past your little problem there. But yes, early on had that exact same problem. So good and bad on that. But also, really good thing. We're getting closer to July. It's sunny. Yes, it's hot, but man, just something about the sun being out more and not any of this rain makes you just feel so much happier and less gloomy.
Yes. If anybody from Harry's is listening, feel free to like send us. We would love to be sponsors because hey, we're always happy to have advertisements. That one was free. The next one, obviously, we were more than happy to take some money, product, whatever. That was just a side note. Anyways, back to our topic for this time around. We took the prior episode of Turning Feedback into Future Success, a guide for developers, and we shoved that into ChatGPT, and it gave us back a series of an episode structure and series of key discussion points. I love the first point. So in the first section, reframing.
Now, real quick though, before you get into that, in all our prior ones, though, you've given us how ChatGPT responded. And I kind of want to keep that going a little bit because as we go to the other AIs, I want us to kind of speak on
That's
that.
true, because if we get an AI that says that is the most stupid request I've ever heard, we want to share that. This one, when I asked for that, it said, absolutely, for your developer nerd podcast episode titled, here's a structured breakdown of topics of discussion. It has gotten away from the like, that's an awesome idea or something, but I think it's realized that we don't care, or it is one of our listeners. So, item one, reframing feedback. It's not criticism, it's data. Point one, feedback is a growth tool, not a personal attack. I love that this is like top of the list. And this is actually, I think, top of the list, one of the primary things that we've discussed in feedback in general, also code reviews. It also, I'll get you the rest of these first bullets. Professionals seek feedback, amateurs avoid it. Reframing it as input to iterate and improve, like debugging yourself. And then they've got a suggestion mini segment, the developer who took feedback personally and lost a client. Wow, that would be a cool little segment to do. I don't think I've done that. I don't think I've got anything like that we've ever done. That would be sort of cool. I like with this one, I really like the idea of like debugging yourself. And this is actually how I feel when I'm doing, and it's, I guess it's a little more than that. When I go into code reviews, and especially when they're the ones that are in person, where you actually are like sitting there walking through your code and explaining it, and you're getting live feedback, which to me is very different from when you're using tools that allow people to give you feedback. While those are useful, I found that the in person, they tend to be, there's more feedback. I tend to get more useful feedback, and it's actually, it tends to like a lot of things go off the rails a little bit. So the feedback will actually a lot of times go beyond just the code that I wrote, but it will also give me insight into, other suggestions outside of like just that code review. When you're doing it through a tool, usually it's just in that code. And the debugging yourself, I also see it as improving yourself. If you ever, selfless promotion here, but if you ever go back and read our book, that's one of the things we talk about in code reviews. It's a great way to learn. Testing and code reviews are an awesome way to get feedback and learn things you don't know about the language, the environment, honestly, even the application. There are numerous times that I have walked into projects like not in the first sprint. In the first couple of sprints, when I'm doing code reviews, I end up getting a lot of feedback about what is it that we're actually building. It's all of this stuff that doesn't come on day one, that isn't really documented, but it's a lot of what you don't know is that this is how this works. Or by the way, there's this other feature you've never thought of or been introduced to. And this is not only good for you, this is why I love code reviews, because it forces cross training to some extent. That's why even like I've got a developer that is our newest developer, actually not newest, and with air quotes, he's literally our newest developer, our most junior developer. And I ask him all the time to do code reviews, and he doesn't feel comfortable with them. And if he ever watches this, yes, I'm talking about you. Um, that I asked him to do it, and he may not feel comfortable. He's like, "Well, I don't really know," but it's like, no, there are things that are useful. There are pieces of code you've written that are useful to code reviews. And so think of it that way, is please think of it as uh, both sides of it. Please think of it as constructive criticism, and please promote it as constructive criticism. People trust me. We are developers. We create bugs. We are not perfect. We know every time we run the stinking compiler or build, we will see all kinds of crap that, yeah, and maybe it's just us. Maybe not everybody sees it, but we know we make mistakes. We make typos. I don't know how many times I've seen commits in that are, I forgot to commit this one file. All of us do it. Go with it and use it as a learning experience. Your thoughts, because I know this is very near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, I'm going to try to keep this positive. uh, First and foremost, I will say this: debugging yourself, feedback, anything in general, you have to take a breath, treat it as a safe space, or try to make a safe space for feedback and criticism, because you may get slammed with nothing but criticism and bad feedback. You need to be able to absorb that, filter out the minutia, and get to the key points of the feedback. A lot of times, so one, I'll start with, improving yourself with feedback. Asking for feedback all the time is a wonderful thing, but it can also be a negative thing on the people you are reaching out to for feedback. You could get into feedback loops where, personally, if you're feeling challenged or you're feeling uncomfortable or insecure of the problem or what you're working on at the time, it is very hard, one, to ask for feedback, and then very two, to get the feedback and not continuously ask for more feedback. You get out of that in control moment, and you kind of, unfortunately, you lead into or fall into that trap of you lose your confidence in what you're doing, and you're just stuck on the feedback of others. You know what you're doing. Take the feedback you're getting from others, take it, learn from it. If you still need to follow up, but be conscious of their time and make sure that you are learning the right way. If you get stuck where you think you're going down the trap of, I'm not getting what I need, maybe you're talking to the wrong people. Maybe you're getting the wrong feedback because you're asking the wrong question of the wrong group. So again, I want to try to keep this positive, but these are some things that I've run into a lot, and just personally are some challenges you run into, because it could bring you down just because you're talking to the wrong person. If you're talking to the right people and getting the right feedback, then it makes sense. But it's a challenge because you don't necessarily know if the person you're asking, your customer, could potentially be giving you the right feedback, but you're not hearing it because you're in the wrong mindset.
I want to like talk about that mindset real quick though, because this is a little behind the scenes. Michael and I have worked together as developers for a long stinking time. For as young as we are, a long time. And I want to say that there are times that we're like an old married couple and that we will have code reviews and we will go back and forth. But I want you to one of the things that we have learned that makes it useful is that it's going to come as a shock, but we have bad days. And there will be, and we also, because, particularly through, Slack and text and stuff like that, you will misread things. And we are comfortable enough saying, hey, that doesn't seem right, or that seems like, attacking, or I'm not intending to be a jerk. It just come, and we will say different words than that. Because we recognize that we're harping on maybe something we don't. And there's also situations where we will talk about something and realize that neither of us are in the position to make that decision because somebody else needs to do that, and we have to push that off. So I just want to say that's like, yes, it can be stressful, but like own that it can be stressful, own that it could be, you could maybe take it wrong, or maybe somebody's, maybe you're communicating it in a way that is not, we'll say, nice. And I'm usually the person that's like, screw you with nice, just get it done. But also there is like, it has to be, you have to do it in a way that people receive it. And so I want to, like, Michael's trying to be nice, but also we're going to be real, because we have lived this, we have had rough times on it. And I just want to throw that out there and sort of throw those extra pieces, because I felt like that was a good time. Go ahead. Sorry.
It was. I mean, and not throwing salt on the wound, but we actually had that start of that conversation this morning, and we had a little chat thread going, and it felt like it went off the rails. Walked away for a little bit and came back, and it's like, okay, we're just misreading it. But the funny thing is, it came around from a code review and testing, working on a ticket or trying to test a ticket that was completed, looking at the ticket, and the developer, Rob, worked the ticket. I came back in and looked at the ticket, and the ticket was a little vague. So trying to dissect and understand what to test and things like that prompted questions outside of essentially his lane. I needed to go a little bit above that to the project owner. And that's where you have to make sure you're talking to the right people, you're understanding the right priorities. But that all came from testing and code review. It's like, hey, I looked at this, I potentially found a gap, or I found, like, I'm not understanding what you worked on because there's might be some miscommunication in a ticket.
The
And
time, real quick, I want to add on that is know that that was through testing. We've been talking about code reviews. Testing is the same thing. So when we're talking code reviews, also consider tests. Same thing. Go ahead.
yep, nope, exactly. So because I'm more a tester and coder. I wear too many hats and I get stuck in many things. It's like if I'm in my test mode, I ask things a certain way, but when I'm coding, it's like, oh, that's out the window. Gotta get work done. Gotta get out the door. Uh, it's very funny trying to. If you work with me and you work on many projects like this, you'll see that when I'm in this mode, yeah, testing is out the window, trying to get things done. But when I'm in the test mode, it's like, crap, I forgot about that. Gotta go fix that. But code reviews. So I'll real quickly talk about code reviews and then we'll move on to the next point. Code reviews, like Rob mentioned, are really good tools. One, to catch things that are missed. Two, if your pipelines are built correctly when you send it up to your pipeline to build, one, it will tell you if the project, your code builds, that, oops, you haven't pushed up bad code most of the time. Pipelines can break. Two, did you commit all your code? Your build could still pass, but you're missing some configurations or something behind the scenes that your tests don't touch. And three, code reviews are a great way to keep your team trained on what is going on with the code. So many projects I've been on, it has been very, if you're dealing with like larger teams, you could very quickly run into one person is kind of working on front end stuff, one person is working on back end stuff, or multiple people, but they're not working on, they're not switching over, they're not cross training enough on the code or the application. That is where code reviews are perfect for this. And sure, everyone spends a little bit of time, 15 minutes to a half an hour, depending on how many code changes are in there. And if you're doing your tickets right, there shouldn't be that big of a code change. If there is, your tickets are too big. Soapbox over. But code reviews are perfect for training, perfect to ensure that your code standards are being followed, that your naming conventions are right. The other thing that code reviews are great for is, hey, I added this functionality to solve this problem. Oh, wait, hey, this was already solved over here. It's named something else. Go get this. This helps you decrease code bloat, uh, dead code, and duplication of code within your application.
A couple quick things on that is that means what he just said is absolutely spot on. And that means that when you're doing a code review, you need to pay attention to what you're reviewing. I have had too many times where people have reviewed code and then a week later they're writing essentially the same function they just code reviewed. And if they did, that to me says they probably weren't paying enough attention. Bonus thing is unit testing and regression testing is an awesome way to give yourself feedback without a personal touch because we all can hate the unit test and then it fails it and stuff like that. And it's not, a person's fault. We don't seem to take those personally as much. So I see that often as a great way, particularly if you incorporate that into your pipelines and things like that, a great way to build knowledge about the application and ensure that you're not breaking things when you add new code. Moving along, because we have some pretty cool stuff. I want to hit this next one. Types of feedback developers receive. Technical, code reviews, architecture decisions, performance improvements. Collaborative, communication, responsiveness, documentation, or team synergy. Client-based, feature delivery, UX expectations, that's user experience. Timeline management, user feedback, bug reports, usability, pain points, and feature requests. Tip, not all feedback is equal. Learn to filter signal from noise. Now, that section, I would love for my teams, and this is something I build in my teams, and I would love for all the teams that I work with to incorporate all of these areas: technical, collaborative, client-based, user feedback. I would include professionalism, for lack of a better term, because I think there is a lot of feedback we can get as developers that will help us be a better developer, but more importantly, be better as a teammate, better as a communicator. And there's a lot of things that we as developers get away with sometimes because we have a firewall between us and the normals or the non-technicals or whatever you want to call them. The people that don't speak our language. And part of being a better developer, part of moving from a coder to a developer is being able to translate tech speak, for lack of a better term, into business speak, whatever your business is. And sometimes that's a challenge because sometimes the business speak is not consistent. Not every industry is created equal. There's a very big difference if you're dealing in law firms versus healthcare versus finance versus distribution, fulfillment, warehousing. All of these organizations, all of these lines of business have different terminologies. Some are easier than others. And if you want to be a better developer, part of what you need to do is get feedback, and this is including clients and users, so that you are understanding the business side of what it is that you're doing, so that you can communicate to them what the application actually is. And this goes down to like the most simple things like labeling your stinking input fields with something that the user understands. And trust me, I have been in long conversations about what the correct label is for a certain text field. And I often consider it to be not time wasted because we need to make sure that we are understanding who our customer is, how to communicate with them, and do so in a way that is clear. Because when they get in and use it, you want them to be comfortable with it and not saying, what the heck are these people trying to make me do? I'll get off my soapbox and now allow Michael to step onto his.
Yeah, so types of, you know, types of feedback, technical, collaborative. We've kind of touched on a lot of these and we deal with a lot of these. I'll tell you right now, my biggest fear is dealing with customers. For years, I've always worked behind the scenes. There's been a salesperson, a marketing person, a manager. I'm behind all that. I'm the coder. Depending upon where you're at, you could be in the same situation. I will tell you right now, you better rip that band-aid off because you need to get better at communicating at all levels. I will say this, the first real software job I had after college, I had a code go out the door, and the feedback I got for multiple, early releases or beta sites for the software was, hey, everything's working great. We go live, first big client, software breaks. It's July 3rd. You'll run into these situations. You get a lot of negative feedback. This doesn't work. I immediately went from behind the scenes to customer facing. Customer is always right to a point because you need one, depending upon where you're at in your job, your customer is your boss. So your boss may be wrong, but he cuts your paycheck. So you need to make sure that what is wrong is clearly understood and defined so you get the right feedback so that you can correct the problem and move on. Don't want to be that horse too far dead, but always understand that your situation will constantly change in software. You could think you're always a coder or a developer, you're always doing that. No, you at some point in your career will be thrown into every level of the company of the software. So you better get used to a lot of negative feedback, especially if you somehow skipped working in customer support or software support before becoming a developer. You need to get on the phones and talk to your customers because you'll find out very quickly that that little button you did does not work the way you think it does. Your customers hate it. Do something else. But unless you learn from your customers, this is a great learning tool. You get the feedback on how things work, what it is that you're doing, how it's being interpreted is the best way to improve your product and to improve yourself and grow as a developer.
I will add that The reason that RB Consulting is what it is because when you actually listen to your customers and what their pain points are, the customer meetings are always so much better than what we do to ourselves. We beat ourselves up for all of the little bugs and all that kind of stuff. But if you're listening and delivering what the customer actually wants to fix, 99 times out of 100, that they're like, wow, this is way more than I wanted. But it's because this goes back to our why. Focus on why you are building it. Don't do it because it's cool technology. Don't do it because it's a cool algorithm or it's like a new thing. Do it because it is serving your customer. And I guarantee you, your customer meetings will be great. If you short circuit that, if you're trying to like, learn some technology. And if you weren't straight with them from the start, if you aren't like laying stuff out and giving them here's where we're going to go and communicating, you're going to have problems. Now, that being said, I want to move on because I want to add this little bonus thing, not a bonus, but this other point before we move on. Um, the next one, it has how to process feedback constructively.
Ooh.
And we don't have a lot of time, so we're not going to get too deep in this, but bullet point one, don't react, review, digest, reflect. Ask clarifying questions without becoming defensive. Separate the feedback from how it was delivered. Look for patterns. If 2 to 3 people say the same thing, it's a flag. Now, I want to jump real quick, and then I'm going to throw it to Michael so he has a time to speak, and then it's obviously my time because I get to close it up. I'm just kidding. Don't react, review, digest, reflect. That is the hardest thing for us to do. We get something and we want to like, bam, like boom, right away, attack it. Because one of it is because we're developers, want to get it done, get it out of the way, move on, move on, move on. Trust me, people hate me for this. Haters gonna hate. That's just the way it is. But we have to accept that, is realize that we move through stuff too fast and we need to sit back a second, particularly with feedback. More so than anything, it's like, where do I fix this? There is a problem. Somebody has noted something. They may be high, they may be wrong. I don't care. There is still some sort of fix, whether it's a communication or an actual code change, whatever it is. And this goes to the next one. Ask clarifying questions without becoming defensive. I think this is the number one skill that we can all get better at. And I don't even care if you're a developer or not, because asking clarifying questions, we have to know that like this goes back to go to loser think, go to philosophy, to psychology and stuff like that. Realize who we are as humans. We typically are going to ask a clarifying question in a manner, in a context that is probably defensive. We're probably going to state it in a way that is making us look good and the other person like an idiot because they shouldn't have pointed out our bug that's not a bug. This goes back to what I talked about Michael and I earlier. We have worked with each other long enough, and although it's not always a safe space because Michael will punch me sometimes, I'm just kidding, but we know that we are allowed to say, hey, I didn't hear that. I don't think I heard that right. I was offended by that. I was hurt by that. I didn't mean to be a jerk by that. Those things, we have those sensitivities out there. And I will also add, it's not just us. Our team knows that, yeah, sometimes we get a little heated about stuff, but they also realize and have mentioned it's like we do it without the egos leading. Yeah, it'll come off that way, but we're usually very apologetic about it. And that's the key. If you can learn to clarify without being defensive, that helps so much because it's basically, I hear you. I need more information. And sometimes it's that simple, and sometimes it's frustratingly that simple because they say it's broken. Okay, tell me more about what is broken. What did you do? How did you expect it to act? Sometimes something as neutral as that is the way for you to move forward because it's like, look, I need more information because you do, and it doesn't hurt. So let's go ahead and do that. And then that can be done in a neutral way. You've been nodding all along, and I'm sure it's not because you agree with me. So, what are your thoughts on this one?
It's funny about that, but one of the biggest things I've heard in a lot of the like co-star classes and business classes I took to relaunch the business is stop and listen to your customer. If you are doing all the talking, you are not getting the validation, the clarification that you need, the right feedback you need to solve the problem. Take the time, stop, listen. And it may even be you need to just go out and take a walk around the block for a minute, walk away from the problem. If you get heated, you get very emotional about what you're doing. We all do. We're passionate about what we do. You wouldn't be doing this if you're not. But we can't let that passion turn into an obsession of, I'm always right, the customer's always wrong, or whoever's speaking. And ensure that you do take the time to listen, get the right feedback that you need, and offer the correct feedback when things are wrong. Be courageous enough, and it's not easy to speak up when you're being talked down to or when the feedback you're getting may seem too critical, too hard, and say, hey, let's back it up a minute. Let's make sure we're focusing on the problem, that we're not injecting egos into this, like Rob mentioned, and just let's solve the problem. We're here to fix, we're here to solve a problem. We're here to create some great software and to improve everyone's life. Let's not detract from that. Let's not tear people down. Let's not beat things up. Let's keep it positive and get that feedback and move on.
100% agree. I will throw a little bonus thing out there. There was and I'm going to name names. There was a guy that I worked with he said a throwaway phrase one time that really sticks with me because I think it's very important for us to think about. His name is Greg Imony, and he said, this is a meeting that whoever talks the least will win. And I think we need to think of that, particularly when you are in requirements gathering, when you are architecting and getting feedback. You win if you say the least amount of words, basically. If you can sit there and say, and then what? Or and then what? Or what happens next? Or how does that work? Just leading questions. And I know people will think you're a jerk because all you're doing is asking questions, but you're not. You are doing everything you can to draw that information out. If you can think about that, it is not about showing off your skills, showing off your knowledge, showing off that you've got a degree or you've got a certification or blah, 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 the stuff that we sometimes fall back on. And instead of falling back on, this is how we can help you, that is where you're going to win. You're going to win your customer, you're going to win your project because you're going to get that safe space for them to gripe about everything they want to gripe about. Sometimes it's going to hurt because they're going to say your code sucks. This breaks. This is, but own it. Like I've got a customer that I loved working with him. I think we finally are past working with him. And one of the things was there were times where he'd be like, this is not what I expected from you. And I'm like, I agree. And I'm going to fix it or I'm going to discount it or whatever it's going to be because it's like, yeah, we missed it. We didn't get it right. We didn't understand it. We're not going to blame you for not communicating. Sometimes it's our fault for not asking the right questions. For example, this is why every time we ask, send us an email at info@developernorder.com so that we cannot fail you as our customers and we can make sure that we are doing things that are useful to you, that we're providing you content that are our context, our approach, all of those things, they are all open, especially Michael. I know I'm perfect. I know Michael needs a lot of help. Just kidding. Any feedback you give, whether it's positive or negative, helps us a lot. This is what this episode is about, is we embrace even negative feedback because that tells us where we have made mistakes, where we've screwed up. I want to hear from you guys. If you have suggestions for us to improve, for future topics, all of that, info@developernorder.com is a great way from email. You can also reach out to us. We've got all kinds of places on developernorder.com. You can give us feedback wherever you listen to podcasts, whatever your catcher is. You can leave us feedback, positive, negative, great. YouTube, the Developreneur channel. We are on X at Developreneur, and out on Facebook, we also have a Developreneur page. So you name it, we're out there. If you name it and we're not, let us know and we'll go get out there, because that's just where we want to be. We want to be where you are, continuing to provide content. As always, thank you so much for your time. I know this has gone a little bit long. Sorry about that, but please forgive us and we will try to do better next time. Love you guys. Have a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. Bonus material. Sorry for you YouTube people, because you get even more. You've been hanging out for a long time, and yet we're still here. Oh, wait. Scratch that. I want to go ahead and
The bullet points, right? The other ones.
let's see, what do we have? We had three more bullet points. Wow, we got nowhere on this. Actually, those are really good. So I'm going to fly through these, and I'm going to give you one to throw on. So you may take notes fast. Turning feedback into growth. Identify what you control, and make a small action plan. Example: you got feedback about confusing APIs, improve docs, add examples, refactor. Convert feedback into learning sprints. Refine your skills or workflow. Wow, that's a neat one. Build public change logs for side projects. Show you listen and act. Feedback loops and side hustles. Early users are your free QA team. Embrace that. And every piece of user feedback is a chance to increase value and reduce churn. Use NPS surveys or interviews to proactively pull insights. Quote, side hustles don't fail from lack of code. They fail from ignoring feedback. Wow, that's a good one. Giving feedback as a developer, be kind, specific, and actionable. Use I notice or I'd suggest instead of this sucks. Give feedback in the spirit of improvement, not ego. This builds trust, better teams, and great clients. Discussion prompt, what's the best piece of feedback you ever received that changed your dev journey? Creating a feedback culture for yourself. Regularly use for impact. Ask for input. What's one thing I could improve? Use introspective and solo project or retrospective in solo projects, or journaling for self-feedback. I need to learn how to read better. Small text, my bad. Normalize feedback in your collaborations, especially for side hustles and freelance clients. Call to action for listeners. Challenge: ask one colleague, client, or user for feedback this week. Write down what you learned. Share your most painful but powerful feedback story with hashtag dev feedback win. I guess we should start looking at that. Tease next episode from good to great, leveling up your dev workflow. Oh, I should probably tease that, but I'm not going to. So your thoughts on these? Oh, that was a lot.
So I'll take one early one that you threw out there. Your early users are your testers. Be careful with that. Case
100%.
don't be a Windows. Here, let's push our software out and for 6 months use our users as our testers to fix bugs. Or Path of XL2, I'm calling you out. Don't go pre-beta or whatever. Yeah, I guess they're in beta or whatever it is. Early access. Don't go early access and then expect a million users to join your site. And guess what? You're in early access. No, you're live. You need to understand, if you do rely on your customers or your users as your testers, you better pay attention, because suddenly your application may not be this application that you were building anymore. It may have drastically changed. Be very careful with that.
An early unnamed project that I was part of, we used to kid that we skipped the savings and skip the testing and pass the savings on to you. And that was, because we cranked some stuff through, and we're built on top of a product that also did that very often. And so we would refer to them as doing the same things that we had like 250 tickets open with their software, and they knew it. They hated hearing from us because we tested their stuff more than they did. Um, I'm going to share this one as a bonus, because I think it probably says more about me than it does anybody else, but that's okay. I think this is something as developers we can learn from. Early feedback that really touched me, I guess, and not necessarily in a good way. Early on, when I was very young, because this is yesterday, I'm still very young. I was working with a guy, and he was very brutal, we'll say, and you can gauge this, but he said, I thought you were an asshole. I thought you were, you didn't know what you were just over the top and just being a jerk about stuff. And then I realized you knew what you were talking about. Now, that's in many cases, a pardon my French, obviously, but uh, in many cases that was very could be considered very harsh. But what I took it as, which is how it was attended, because this guy, I respected him and his feedback, was you have a lot to say, and sometimes you don't say it the right way. Or in his case, I'm sugarcoating it. He probably said, never do you say it the right way. You come off in a way. And part of it was because I was a young kid and I knew a lot of stuff. And I would just jump right into a conversation and people didn't expect that. So I could say, well, that's everybody else. And part of me did. And that's why I went back and got a degree and a higher degree and stuff like that. But there was another part of it was how I submitted that information, how I carried myself when I said it. And it is something that has stuck with me through my life. And it's honestly, I'll just like throw it open. It's like, that's still who I am. Is like, you may note because I have a personality that sometimes precedes everything and my mouth is right there with it. And so sometimes it's a little bit much for people. And Michael's smiling because he has been a victim of this, where he's like, you said this and I felt like you were beating up on me. I'm like, I really didn't mean to. I was trying to be the nice guy. Didn't come across that way. That kind of feedback, it can sometimes be hard to hear, but it can be very, very valuable. So this goes back to like it. I'm going to use different words, but ruminate on it. Think about it. Sometimes in the heat of battle, when you're going through and like cranking through tickets and codes and you're in the middle of like a death march, it is very difficult. But this is why I love retrospectives. And I think you should do the same. Spend a little time listening to the feedback that you got. Yeah, you're not necessarily going to respond perfectly in the moment, but later on, it's going to sink in and you're going to make some adjustments. Hopefully, you're going to make some adjustments and you're going to be a better developer the next time around. I say that as a great way to close this episode because we've gone so long. I thank you so much for your time. We will be back. We are continuing to do more with AI, but obviously that doesn't shut us up fast enough. Thank you so much. Have a great day. All of the great places to contact us, go do it. Talk to you next time.